Okay.
Go ahead and start.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Keith Thompson, the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in the College of Engineering. Today, Dr. Marlena Lester, who is the College of Engineering's Director of Advising, and myself are going to talk to you about joining the College of Engineering and adjusting to life at Virginia Tech. Both of us are part of a larger office, the College of Engineering Academic Affairs Office, and we handle most undergraduate issues in the college. We are part of a broad system of student support that includes the departmental advisors that are there to help support you through your time at Virginia Tech. Marlena and I both want to thank you for choosing Virginia Tech for your college experience. Today's orientation is going to contain a lot of advice you will need to know on how to be successful in college, and particularly in an engineering program. This advice is going to be reiterated several times during your first year, so don't worry if it doesn't all sink in today. Let's move on to the next slide. One of the first things I'd like to say is that Virginia Tech is recognized as an educator of high-quality engineering students. There are going to be high expectations of performance, but you will also be offered many opportunities to participate in engineering competition teams, undergraduate research, and to interact with many other students of similar capability and passion to yourself. We do not admit you if we don't think you have the potential to be a successful student here. That doesn't mean that you won't face various struggles adjusting from high school life to college life. Those struggles are really common, but they're a good opportunity to learn and mature. And let's move on to the next slide. The other thing about Virginia Tech's College of Engineering is that we're really big. In fall 2023, we will have almost 10,000 undergraduate students in the college, freshman to senior. That size allows us to offer a lot of different programs to you to choose from, and many of those programs have specialized tracks for students to provide even more differentiation in your learning and ultimately in your future career. However, that size also means it's very easy to feel lost. So understanding how to identify sources of help at Virginia Tech is going to be a very important skill for you to develop. Let's move on to the next slide. So the first, I'd like to talk about expectations. I'm sure you've heard that college is different from high school in many different ways. To start with life management, no one's going to be there to directly monitor you. You're going to have a lot more autonomy to make your own choices. You're going to need to master your own time management, study routines, and juggling of your academic responsibilities. But you're also going to need to solve a lot of common day-to-day life tasks, such as getting laundry done, keeping your space in order, eating properly, managing money, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure that many of you are already used to this, but for others, you'll be handling these things for the first time. It's a good thing for you to adapt to these types of tasks. When you come out of college, you're going to be much more ready to live on your own and juggle the routines of a professional life when you're starting a career. All of this is going to mean that you will have a lot more freedom, but it's also going to mean the freedom to make mistakes, which is something you're going to have to get used to. In addition to navigating life, students are also going to need to learn how to navigate the university. And by this, I mean all the numerous rules, requirements, and deadlines that are common for a large university. We have rules about academic standards, rules for academic integrity, rules about degree requirements, timelines for adding and dropping classes, for changing your major, and other critical matters. And we do not grant a lot of exceptions to those rules. We also have a large bureaucracy of many different offices and specialized personnel, and that can be very confusing to work with and to try to figure out who you're supposed to be talking with about a given problem. But each of you is going to have an academic advisor, and typically that person is the best first stop whenever you have questions. They may not know the answers to those questions, but they can help point you in the right direction to start getting answers. We also try to be very intentional about communicating information that you need in a timely manner. You will need to be very conscious about deadlines and planning in such a way that you'll be able to meet those deadlines with time to spare. Most deadlines you will encounter at Virginia Tech are strictly enforced, whether it's a due date for an assignment, a deadline to apply for an opportunity like a scholarship, or a deadline to take action on some university process, such as adding or dropping classes. So you're going to need to spend a lot of time figuring out all these different things. It will be best if you become your own advocate for working with faculty and other personnel across the university. You may not be very comfortable talking to a professor or some administrator with a title you don't understand, but you may find yourself in that situation at someday. Most of the faculty and administrators I know are thoughtful, understanding people. They are there to try to help you, but there will be limits on how much they can bend policy. And typically those are constrained by factors that are beyond their control. However, they will often offer advice and sometimes point out options that you may not have thought of to begin with. And they can help you in thinking through different issues and viewing them from different perspectives that you might find comforting when you reach a point like that. Let's move on to the next slide. I cannot stress enough how much you need to check and read your emails. Your vt.edu email is going to be the official contact method between the university and you. Make sure that you check it at least weekly, if nothing else. During the academic year, personnel from the Academic Affairs Office will be sending you numerous messages regarding upcoming deadlines and other requirements. Please keep an eye out for these and make sure you read those messages. Do not let those emails get assigned to your junk folder or your spam folder. Up until recently, we've been using the email associated with your application for admission. That might be a Gmail account, a Hotmail account, or something else. You should have already received instructions on how to set up your vt.edu email by now. If you've not already done this, please do this after this orientation session. With all this said, please don't expect immediate responses when you send someone an email, or expect to be able to meet with someone if you just drop by their office without an appointment. Appointments are typically made through Navigate, which is the campus's software for advising. All of the advisors have many students and other tasks that they're responsible for, and it's not unusual for them to be fully booked up for any given day. So timeliness and asking questions will be very important for you. The need for urgency is often not necessary if you are proactively reading the communications that come to you and paying attention to the deadlines that are stated in those. So let's move on to the next slide. I want to talk a little bit about your classes. Instruction at Virginia Tech may feel very different from the instruction you've had in high school or possibly at a community college. There's going to be a lot more emphasis on comprehension of foundational theory rather than memorization of facts or formulas or different types of data. You may need to know how to apply your understanding of something to new situations when you're taking an exam that don't look like any of the problems you had on a homework. The material may be presented to you in a less structured manner. There's also going to be a higher expectation for you to absorb material with less direction, particularly by reading and looking over notes outside of class. You're going to need to be more of an independent learner. If you're like I was when I first went off to college, I did not know how to study because I never really needed to know how to do that in high school. So in addition to learning the material for your classes, a lot of you are probably also going to be learning how to study in new ways that will work for you in college and give you a deeper understanding of the material that you need to absorb. You're also going to need to pay close attention to the expectations of the instructors, and I highly recommend that you start all of your assignments early. Like I've said before, many of the instructors can be very rigid on due dates and don't accept late work. And they may expect that work to fit very specific formatting standards or may not give any partial credit if the work is incomplete or has errors. So don't wait until the day before a due date to begin looking at an assignment and trying to get it done. You're also going to want to set aside time each day to review material from your courses, even if you don't have something due later in the week. The typical rule of thumb is 2 to 3 hours outside of class for every hour that you spend in class. So if you're thinking about a typical 15 credit course load, that adds up to 45 to 60 total hours per week. 15 hours that you're going to be spending in your classes, and then another 30 to 45 that you're going to be spending outside of classes performing work for those classes. That adds up to more than a full-time job, and that doesn't include any of the time that you need to manage your life are that you may want to devote to valuable co-curricular activities like being involved with a student organization of some type. Let's move on to the next slide. I need to include a special warning here about Chegg, ChatGPT, and other similar resources. Virginia Tech has an honor code, which is taken very seriously by the university. Sanctions for academic misconduct can include an F-star grade. That's an F with an asterisk after it that appears on the transcript. And it's a failing grade for an entire class. These are not uncommon. Multiple offenses can also result in suspension or even expulsion from the university. So it's really important that you pay attention to the rules of conduct that are expected for completing assignments or exams in your classes. Because of how many cases that I have seen related to Chegg specifically, I want to explicitly warn you away from Chegg and similar online study sites. Let's go to the next slide. So with all of these messages, I won't be surprised if you're starting to feel a little overwhelmed. That's normal and it's perfectly fine. College can be a very up and down experience until you get used to it. In your first year, you may encounter homesickness, loneliness, uncertainty, feelings of insecurity, anxiety, and depression. You may have been a top student in high school and find that you're closer to average at Virginia Tech, or you may just plain feel lost in your courses. It's okay to go through all of this. Looking back at my own college experience, the one lesson I wish I had learned early is how to ask for help, whether that's academic help or help figuring out how to manage expectations, or just counseling when I was having rough spots in my life. There were a lot of resources available, and I did not use them enough when I was an undergraduate. And even though I did fine later on, I could have done better had I been less stubborn about getting advice or looking into campus resources. It is normal and it's okay to experience any number of problems when you first go off to college. And you can recover from a certain amount of bad grades in your first year, but that becomes harder if you don't talk to others when you need help. So it's really important that you recognize when you are starting to have problems and you start to reach out very quickly to people that can help you. It's important to define realistic expectations for yourself and to keep focusing on forward progress. And we will try to help you do this. So let's move on to the next slide. The university and the college have numerous opportunities for support. A couple of resources I want to point out today. We have a counselor from Cook Counseling Center who is embedded within the College of Engineering. She works exclusively with engineering students and focuses on issues that are more prevalent in the engineering experience. The university maintains a student success center that provides tutoring support services, among other academic help. Some departments, such as computer science, which is our largest undergraduate program, maintain their own tutoring service space. Their space is located in Torgerson Hall. We have a group called SWAT, that stands for Software Assistance Triage. They are also located in Torgerson Hall. They are there to help with any computer or software needs that you might have. If you are working on something during a given week and your computer starts to die on you, you can go to SWAT and try to get help with it. And they may even have loaner computers that they can give out to help get you through that a short period of time. If you are facing some sort of general life emergency, the Dean of Students Office is a good resource. They offer, among other things, they do absence notices. They will help support, point you towards different support offices. They even have some small pots of money if you're facing an emergency financial situation that you need immediate help for. I also want to mention that the college's Center for Enhancement of Engineering Diversity, or CEED, SEED for short. Among their various services, they offer a peer mentoring program that pairs freshman students with upper-level students as mentors. They also run our living learning communities, Galileo and Hypatia. SEED is currently located in the Gilbert Street building, but you can easily find them online if you do a Google search for VT CEED, SEED. If you have had disability accommodations in high school or an IEP plan, I strongly encourage you to contact the Services for Students with Disabilities office at Virginia Tech and make use of accommodations here. I've seen a lot of students try to forgo the use of accommodations when they transition from high school to college, and that's often come with mixed results. Accommodations are handled in a discrete fashion, and they're designed to provide a fair learning situation for students who are authorized to have them. So please don't hesitate to make use of that resource if you are authorized to do so. We maintain a list of different resources that's available on our website. You can see the link here on the slide. And that wraps up my part of this orientation. I want to reemphasize that you're now a Hokie, you're part of the Virginia Tech community. We've accepted you because you are qualified to be here and we have confidence in you. So I want to thank you for your time. I'm now going to pass this over to Dr. Lester. She's the college's Director of Advising, and she's going to go over quite a lot of other important information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson, and hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this engineering orientation overview session. Like Dr. Thompson mentioned, I'm Marlena. I'm the Director of Advising here within the college. And for the remaining time that we have today, we're going to talk through the virtual academic advising and course registration process. As part of our process for an onboarding of new students, we have this session, which we call the college overview session. We also have supplemental topical question and answer sessions, and there's one this afternoon that I'll talk about in just a moment. We also offer your academic advising, which is your one-on-one advising process with your particular advisor or the advising program. And then we also would help you with your course registration. So there is an engineering orientation timeline on the engineering orientation website where it walks you through all of the materials and documentation that you would have received from the beginning of the summer around May 1st through today. And so on May 1st, there would have details posted on our website about the engineering orientation checklist, which has a very robust list of things that you need to accomplish in order to complete items for other university offices, but also for us in advising. We also sent you a welcome email to the college for orientation on May 8th, and we sent you a specific email about the advising and class registration process on June 5th. If for some reason you don't recall receiving those messages or they've gotten lost, you can see copies of samples on our engineering orientation timeline. Then around June 12th, that's when the class registration process for the university opened and you had the ability to start working with an academic advisor. Every program does it different across our programs in the College of Engineering, but registration for your classes is actually open from June 12th all the way until August 25th. And so you can work with your advisor and meet with, then register for classes, or you can register for classes and then meet with your advisor or vice versa. Then we have, of course, this session, and then we have the topical question and answer sessions that I mentioned. So the questions and answer sessions that we have is the one for computer requirement that was held in early June, June 14th. We held a session on peer mentoring on June 21st. On June 28th, we hosted a session for Hokie Shops, which is our Virginia Tech bookstore. And then this afternoon, we will host a session with our Career and Professional Development Office on career support, internships, co-ops, finding full-time jobs, all of those things at 3 to 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then on July 19th, we will host a session on study abroad. If for some reason you do want to go back and watch the recordings of those videos, you can find those on our orientation website, where you would see the Zoom link for this afternoon session and the one on July 19th. It would be replaced with the recording link for the ones that have already passed as far as the date. On that engineering orientation website, you'll also be able to find lots of great resources to support this process. There were details that linked out to the checklist that I mentioned earlier, information about the ALEX placement, which is required for our first time in college students. We have the specific details on the computer requirement and any additional supplies that we recommend that you have in order to make that successful transition from a technology perspective, but also just reminding you to bring business attire when you come to Blacksburg, or make sure you have some sort of calculator. Those kinds of things are outlined for you there as well. We also have details about the self-evaluation of transfer credits. Now that we're past the 1st of July, most of the AP classes that students would have taken in senior year of high school have now posted onto Hokie Spa, and you'd be able to see that. But I do want to remind you that if you do have AP credit for a class, we do always recommend that you have that credit and you move on to the next level of a class. That's a universal recommendation for us in the College of Engineering. We've done lots of research and data pools on success rates of students who have AP credit and move on. And so in order to support that, there is a process called an AP duplicate drop. And I just want to make sure you're aware of that. So for example, if you have credit for Calculus 1 and Calculus 2, you would see that posted on your Hokie Spa records, and you would move on to the next level of math here at Virginia Tech. You'll also find links out to our check sheets, which are our degree requirements. Those degree requirements are posted on our website right now unofficially, but they are the check sheets that are going through our governance process for your entering class. So for students who start this summer and fall, those requirements are posted on our website for your convenience. You'll see specific tutorials and how to use some of the tools for class registration under our course registration piece. There's also some explanation about why we do some major restrictions on certain sections of courses, and there's details there for you to kind of read through. Most often when it comes to major restrictions, sometimes you may try to register for a particular time or date of a class, but you know it's required for your intended major and it won't let you register for it. Two things could be going on there. The particular section you're trying to register for may not be allowed for you as an engineering student, and you need to choose a different section. Or it may be you're trying to add an upper level mechanical engineering class, for example, and that would not be permitted until you're officially in mechanical engineering, as an example. There's also details for those of you who are in general engineering trying to go into a specific department for the change of major process in order to complete the certain classes you need, GPA hours, and also your grade requirements in order to do that. There's the resources and support that Dr. Thompson mentioned that has all of those links to the resources that he shared with you earlier today. So definitely take a look at that, and then some frequently asked questions. In addition to our orientation website and all of these resources to support your transition, each of you are also on a Canvas site to have modules or resources to kind of go in detail with some of these resources to support you. So for transfer students, all of you are on the College of Engineering Virtual Academic Advising Course Registration Canvas site. If you are a general engineering first time in college student, you have your own Canvas site. And then for building instruction students, you have your own Canvas site as well. So if you're feeling a little lost, that's okay. Just start with the checklist on the first thing on the orientation checklist and kind of work your way through that process. In addition to all of those resources, we have lots of resources to support you on how to self-evaluate your transfer credits, but also how to know that your transcripts and score reports have been received by Virginia Tech. But you first need to make sure that you do request those official score reports and transcripts to be sent to Virginia Tech. So you need to send all of your high school, college, and university transcripts to the Office of Undergrad Admissions, and that will then post on your Hokie Spa records for you to be able to see your college and university transcripts. If you took AP, IB, CLEP, Cambridge, or any other kind of test out option, you do also want to make sure you send your official score reports from the original place that you took those through or agency. So for example, in AP situation or advanced placement, you need to contact College Board directly and have them send them to Virginia Tech. If you're a transfer student and you went to multiple universities before arriving here at Virginia Tech for fall of 2023, you need to contact each institution separately and have them send your official transcript directly from the source. When you are looking around to determine whether or not Virginia Tech has received those details, I want to remind you that it is your responsibility to make sure that you send those, but you can also do us a favor in making sure that your information on Hokie Spa is reflected accurately. And that is your responsibility to make sure that you are keeping up with and are familiar with your academic records and making sure that those records are accurate for your information. It is critical that you ensure that your expected transfer credits are reflected correctly on Hokie SPA. Sometimes there's grouping situations where if you took a math class in one semester and you took a math class in another semester, they may combine and be in a different equivalency and what you see on the transfer equivalency databases and the transfer guides. You can go into Hokie SPA on the grades menu and transfer and other additional credits to see that Virginia Tech has received your official transcripts from the other universities, and also whether or not we've received AP. We do not have a mechanism in place to show you if you have sent your official high school transcript. So that's something you do as part of the application process through the Office of Undergrad Admissions. And so you'll need to check your status of your high school transcripts through that application portal. And so that's the option that you have. And it's a little different for high school transcripts versus sending in your official transcripts. So if you go into your Hokie SPA records, and let's say you took classes at another university, and there might be a notation on a specific class to send your syllabus to credits@vt.edu, that just means we need the syllabus for when you took the class to determine what the Virginia Tech equivalency of that course would be. So make sure that you do comply with that request to send those details to credits@vt.edu. We in the Academic Affairs Office have already sent one reminder to students who had transfer credits processed that had that notation. So you should have gotten an email, but if for some reason courses were recently received and processed, we'll probably send another email reminder toward the end of the week or next week for those situations. So as I mentioned earlier, there's different populations of students that we're onboarding into the College of Engineering right now. We're onboarding students who are in general engineering within the Department of Engineering Education who are first-time in college students. And within that population of students, all students in that category are admitted as a first-time in college student in general engineering in the Department of Engineering Education. And the way that our structure works here at Virginia Tech is that we have restricted programs and we have non-restricted programs, or we have two different kinds of degrees. We have restricted degrees and non-restricted degrees. And what that means is that students who are admitted to general engineering have to have certain course requirements, GPA hours, and other requirements in order to transfer into one of our specific restricted degree programs. And you can see on a screen here, the restricted degree programs range from everything from aerospace engineering all the way down to ocean engineering. Students who are admitted as first-time in college student are admitted as general engineering. Students who are admitted as a transfer student are admitted directly into the program of your choice based on the Office of Undergrad Admissions criteria. If you were admitted as a building construction major, building construction is one of our non-restricted programs. And so as a first-time in college student or a transfer student, you will be directly in that program. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to share with you today is the makeup of our engineering degree. And so you have several components of your degree to comprise of the requirements that are necessary for you to earn your degree at Virginia Tech. And that's made up of general education requirements, or we call those pathways to general education. You have your major requirements, which are courses specific to your department. You also have technical electives, which might be choices depending on what you are pursuing, and then free electives. And for the pathways to general education, that's about 36% of your degree. Your major requirements are 45%, and your technical electives are 17%. And then free electives range from anywhere from 0 to 6 credits or 2% of your program. And within that, and across all of our College of Engineering majors, we have 123 to 132 is the credit hour ranges. So when you're working with your advisor and you're making your class schedule for the fall semester, we're going to recommend a course load of 15 to 17 credit hours. We do that in order to ensure that if you're in a 123 credit hour program, you can look there on the screen, whereas over 8 semesters, it's going to take you 15.375 credits per semester in order to graduate. So we give you that range of 15 to 17 so that you can graduate in 8 semesters or 4 years. Now, for transfer students, hopefully you're graduating sooner than that. Our goals are 3 years or under for transfer students who are coming in this fall semester. In order to help you understand what degree requirements that you need in order to complete your degree, all of our College of Engineering degree requirements or check sheets are listed on that orientation website. You want to make sure that you're following the ones for undergrad catalog year 2023 to 2024, because degree requirements are based on when you enter Virginia Tech, and it's going to include all of those details I mentioned earlier about your pathways to general education. It's going to have the major requirements, your electives, any graduation policies that you need to be familiar with. And there's also going to be special notations for any courses that may be fall only or spring only, or some the class may be offered spring and summer one, or it may be offered in the winter. So you'll be able to see those notations, the prerequisites, the co-requisites, and other details as well. And you would be able to follow that degree requirement until you complete your requirements. Dr. Thompson mentioned earlier about academic advising as kind of your very first point of contact if you have or have questions. And I want to reiterate that you can find out who your academic advisor is on Hokie SPA under View Your General Student Information, or also on Navigate. Every new student in the College of Engineering has been officially assigned an academic advisor, so you do have that information on your official records. If you're lost and not sure who your advisor is, you can log into Hokie SPA and click on View General Student Information to locate that individual's name. You will also want to just be reminded that there's lots of things you can discuss with your advisor, to discuss your academic progress, discuss your grades, your course registration process, how to get involved in campus, and then of course your academic and career goals. During orientation season, your advisor on that June 5th email would have given you explicit instructions on how you're able to schedule an appointment one-on-one with them. But then after orientation has concluded and we're starting the fall semester, you would use Navigate to schedule an appointment with your advisor. In the orientation season, you also use Navigate. They just may have a specific link or form or whatever you have to do in order to gain access to that. As a reminder, you need to be enrolled in 12 credit hours to be considered a full-time student here at Virginia Tech. Full-time status is required for students who live on campus, if you receive financial aid, if you're an NCAA athlete, or you're an international student here in the United States on a visa. So 12 credit hours is the minimum to be considered a full-time student. Like I mentioned previously, we in engineering recommend that you have 15 to 17 credit hours. There may be situations where students have more than that, but in most cases, that 15 to 17 credit hours is the recommendation that we are going to encourage all students, regardless of the amount of transfer credit you're bringing in, all students to have in that very first semester of enrollment. 19 credit hours is the maximum any student can take. 19 hours is not going to be something we typically recommend for all students across the board, but there might be some special exceptions. 15 to 17 is kind of that nice area where we're going to recommend for that course load. Earlier, I mentioned that course registration opened on June 12th. That's open all the way through the last day to add, which is August 25th. You can log into your Hokie SPA account and access your course registration and schedule menu. You will use the add and drop tools in order to be able to register for classes, and you can use some of those tutorials on our orientation website on how to use the Hokie scheduler feature, or how to go directly into registration, add and drop, and schedule. So there's a couple different ways you can go in and use add and drop for your class schedule. I also wanted to reiterate the major and course restrictions. This is a fairly unique thing to Virginia Tech, where some courses are major restricted, meaning only students officially enrolled in that major or a set of majors can enroll in that particular class or section of that class. And so there is a different tool that you can use called the timetable classes to search by term, whether or not that class is a Pathways to General Education class, the subject, the course number, the CRN, which is the course request number, and the course modality. So if it's a completely face-to-face course, if it's a hybrid course, and determining that modality, all those details are outlined for you there. And if you're specifically looking for that major and course restriction, when you click on the CRN, 1 or that course request number, you'll be able to view the prerequisites, the co-requisites, and all those restrictions. So if you're in the registration system and you're getting a little frustrated with that process, just know that there are pop-up buttons that you can click to determine what might be preventing you from adding that particular class. Once you've met with your advisor, you've done your class schedule, you also want to go in and make sure you're viewing your final official class schedule. This on Hokie SPAL, the classic student schedule version is the version that we all prefer. I think we prefer this view so you can see all the details from CRN all the way to exam schedule right there in front of you for your fall semester. So I bring this particular screenshot to your attention because that exam column on the very far right-hand side is going to also list when your final exam is for the end of the semester. So prior to making any kind of travel arrangements or plans at the end of fall 2023, you want to make sure that you do verify your final exam date. That date is probably going to be different than your final class date. So you want to make sure that you are checking the exam schedule and also discussing that with your faculty member after you receive the syllabus for the course. The other thing that I want to call your attention to is the academic calendar. There's a few upcoming academic dates and deadlines you should be familiar with. Of course, the first being the fall semester begins on August 21st. So that is the very first day of classes for the fall semester. The last day for you to add a course for fall is going to be August 25th. And the last day for you to drop a course is October 3rd without grade penalty. There is a complete list of dates and details on the registrar's website. This particular link was outlined in the engineering orientation checklist as an item to bookmark and save on your computer so you know all of the dates and deadlines for the entire academic year. In addition to that, we also want to let you know that we do have social media platforms. If you want to follow us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, there are details here for all of our college level social media sites. This link is also in that engineering orientation checklist. But also you can add yourself to the Engineer Opportunities Facebook page, which is a great way for you to see if there's any internships, job opening, co-ops, all those kinds of things. We post those there. But there, if you are specifically looking for the social media for your intended discipline, you can also find those on this page as well. There's a few final reminders that I want to share with you. The first is making sure that you do finalize your class schedule with 15 to 17 credit hours. And if you have not bookmarked and are not using the orientation website, I encourage you to definitely go back and make sure that that is something you have on your computer, that you can see the orientation details, the degree requirements, your check sheets, how to register for classes are all linked out for you there. I also want to remind you, based on the engineering orientation checklist, that you should already have marked your calendar to save the date for the Weeks of Welcome college session that Dr. Thompson and I will host on August 16th, 17th, or 18th in Burris Hall Auditorium. The specific date that you attend is dependent on when you move on campus, and specific populations have different rules, but those are all outlined on that engineering orientation checklist for you to see when you should be coming to that session. There's also the College Social. The College Social is exactly as it seems. It is a fun way for you to interact with all of our departments. They will be there, have tables set up. We also have lawn games set up. You'll get a free gift from our Student Engineers Council, and you'll hear from them that day in the college session. So that's a great way for you to get involved with our Student Engineers Council, which is our large umbrella student organization here within the College of Engineering. So those are a lot of details that I've thrown at you today to kind of help support your transition to Virginia Tech. We are going to take this time to open it up for any specific questions you might have, but I also want to remind you that all of you do have an assigned official academic advisor. So if you have specific questions about AP or specific questions about courses, I do want you to be encouraged to reach out to your advisor specifically for those questions. But if you have some general questions, feel free to let us know. And we'll utilize today the Q&A feature on your Zoom screen. And excuse me, what we will do is either I will answer the question live for you, or Dr. Thompson will type in a response for you. So feel free to go ahead and start popping in any questions, but I want to thank you so much for being with us today. And if you do have time and you want to learn more about careers and our Career and Professional Development Office, please come back and see me at 3 o'clock today, and we will talk about that particular area. And then also all the other recordings are on our orientation website. So what we'll do is turn it over to any questions that you have. So feel free to pop those in. Okay, so the first question in here I'm going to answer live. It says on the General Student Information tab, it says the subtext says check foreign language requirement, but it doesn't say anything on the page when you click on that. How do you know if VT checked your foreign language requirement? So all students in the College of Engineering are required to have 2 years of a single foreign language in high school in order to meet the foreign language requirement for Virginia Tech graduation. So hopefully in 3 to 4 years, when you're getting ready to graduate, you have completed that requirement. So most students at Virginia Tech will complete the foreign language requirement in high school. So if you're a transfer student, that's why we're requesting that you send your high school transcript if you took foreign language in high school. Otherwise, you would either have to take foreign language to fulfill that requirement, or you would have to make sure that you send your high school transcripts to satisfy that requirement. There will be a notation on HokeySPA under that General Student Information tab that will be updated in several months from now that will have your foreign language requirement satisfied if you sent your transcripts to Virginia Tech that reflects that. Otherwise, you are required to have foreign language at the college level to graduate. Otherwise, that requirement is fulfilled by your high school foreign language requirement. So hopefully that addresses your question. The other question in here, is it common to take virtual classes as a full-time student? So students have the choice of taking virtual classes if they'd like. The course modality is clearly outlined on the timetable classes or the other class search features. It really is student dependent. Even prior to the pandemic, we offered virtual classes at Virginia Tech. Of course, during the COVID pandemic, we offered a lot more, but we've reverted back to more of our what we would call normalized class schedule. So courses that were offered virtually prior to the pandemic are probably still offered virtually. You might have a few of your general education classes that way, but in general, most of the engineering courses are face-to-face as the modality. So students have the choice of choosing the course modality. So no one is requiring or recommending that you choose a virtual class, but if students feel that that's a great way for them to learn the material, then by all means, absolutely, you can take a virtual class. What we have found over time is that most college students really want that face-to-face structure to kind of help make that transition from high school to college. And maybe if procrastination is a concern for you, then virtual classes may not be the best option, because you need to kind of keep yourself really organized in order to make sure you're meeting those academic deadlines, the dates the professor sets. And there's not that face-to-face interaction every day in class, or every, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. So it is common to take virtual classes, but that is a student's choice to register for that or not. How do we know our IB scores have been received? So IB usually comes in a little bit later in the month of July. We would expect those to either start coming in now or next week or the week after. Once we have received your IB courses and they have been processed, you would be able to go into the HokeySPA screen, and you would be able to see that they have been on your official records on the HokeySPA grades menu, transfer and other additional credit screen. So that's how you would know if we have your transfer credits, AP, IB, dual enrollment, all those on that HokeySPA grades menu, transfer and other additional credit screen. So I was registered for classes and I saw that there was like a padlock feature after I selected the classes. Does that ensure you have a spot in the class with the padlock? Great question. I don't know. I've never seen the padlock. So I would need to see a screenshot of that to verify. But the way that I'm going to recommend, if you were to email me that question, what I would do is I would go into your HokeySPA. I would click on Classic Student Schedule, And that's how you verify your class schedule is finalized. So that's what we're going to do. And that's what we're going to prefer that you do, is go into Hokie Spa Classic Student Schedule. And that is your finalized class schedule. So I'm unsure about the padlock, so apologies for that. But this is the screen that we prefer that you look at to determine if your classes are locked in, finalized on your schedule for the fall semester. So definitely take a look at that Hokie Spa Classic Student Schedule screen. The next question we have in here is, if we're going through the ROTC program, are there other places we can get our questions answered? So if your questions are related to academics, you need to talk to your academic advisor. If your questions are related to the ROTC program, then you definitely want to talk to the Corps of Cadets or your particular military branch. So in the Canvas sites for all new incoming students, there is additional information for students who are in the Corps of Cadets about what specific courses you have to register for your particular military branch to fulfill the requirements based upon the program mandates. But if there are specific questions about which boots do I buy or what are the regulations, then you definitely want to talk to the Corps of Cadets directly to get those specific questions addressed. So the next question in here is, how is attendance tracked for mandatory meetings such as this one? Do we have to inform our advisor, or how is that recorded? So what we do for this session and for any other sessions that you're required to do, attendance is on your honor that you were here and that you participated. We are not tracking that from that particular perspective as far as letting your advisor know or so forth. The next question we have here is there a specific computer we're recommended to get for the school year? There is not a specific computer, but there are specific computer specifications that you have to have in order to fulfill the computer requirement. The computer requirement is also not policed. So like, we're not coming to your residence hall and saying, do you have this computer? What we do is make a computer requirement recommendation based upon the software you need in order to run for your classes, to do projects and coursework. So the specific specs, the RAM, or the processing speed, the reason that they're specifically recommended in that computer requirement session that we held the other day, and you can go on the website and I can try to find the link for you. The specific specifications were made as a requirement in order to run the software you need for the computer. So there is not a specific brand or company or model we're going to recommend. We just give you the minimum specifications. But lots of students will go with a Dell, Lenovo, Fujitsu. The only thing that we do not recommend as far as a computer is going to be the MacBook, and there's reasons for that listed on the computer requirement website. So the computer requirement can be found on that orientation link. So the link that's here on the screen, myself and one of the folks from the College of Engineering IT division, Jeff Phillips, and I did a session on the specific computer requirements for an hour long and addressed tons of questions. You can watch that recording on that orientation page as well. How do we send your high school transcript if we are international? You do it just like anyone else. You request that your high school send those to the Virginia Tech Office of Undergrad Admissions. You can work directly with the Office of Undergrad Admissions International counselor to determine if there's a specific email address or if you just need to mail those to Virginia Tech. But you would either be able to send those from your high school directly to the Office of Undergrad Admissions. They have to be sent from your high school though. Students cannot be the person to send those. It has to come from either like a guidance counselor or school official to the Office of Undergrad Admissions. And the specific address that those official score reports and transcripts will go to is the admissions one listed on the screen for you here today. For the final transcript from high school, I received an email saying that VT received it. So do I need to check the applicant portal to verify or not? No, if you got an email saying we have it, then you do not need to do anything. These slides and presentations are prepared for all summer long. So if you have specifically gotten something directly from Virginia Tech saying we have your information, then do not worry about sending that again. Okay. So thank you all so much for popping in all your questions today. Hopefully we were able to answer all of those for you. If anything was not clear for you, feel free to just ask for clarification. There's no worries in that. We do have a hard stop at 10 o'clock, but otherwise, if you feel that you've gotten everything out of the session that you came here for today, as far as this general overview, you are free to leave at any time. But otherwise, I'll hang out for just a few moments to address any last minute questions. So another question that just popped into the chat is, once we get confirmation email that VT has received our high school transfer, is there anything else we have to do? So that's a very loaded question. It really depends. It depends on if you're referring to, do you need to do anything else for Virginia Tech? And if so, then I'm going to say, yes, you probably do. But what that means is not for admission. So your admissions is all done. But you might have to do things for meeting with your advisor, or you might have to finalize your class schedule, or you might need to do some of those things. And so I can't really say, no, you're done with everything without like knowing who you are, but also looking into your specific records. From an admission standpoint, it sounds like based on the way you wrote the question, you're good there, but you might still need to do some things for your specific department, for your advisor or so forth. So the question is also popped in the chat is, when does tuition come out? So tuition really is dependent upon when students register for classes. And so once students register, then you get a bill for tuition after that. It's no one set date for all people. It's based upon when the date in which a student registers for their classes. So the sooner you register, the sooner your bill will populate, but otherwise not all students may have a bill. As of the other day, actually just yesterday, we had over 300 students that had not registered for classes. So that is something that we are encouraging people who have not finalized their class schedule to do so as soon as possible, so that the billing and all that can be translated and in the system appropriately. The next question here is, how do you see if Virginia Tech received your final transcript? If you're looking for final transcript from colleges, or from APIB, you can see that on Hokie SPA, grades menu, transfer, and other additional credits. If you're referencing high school transcript, that's something you'll have to look at in the applicant portal through the Office of Undergrad Admissions. Where can we find that tuition bill? Great question. So I do know where that's at. I just don't know the steps to take you to see your specific bill. So let me pull up my own Hokie SPA account and see if I can make sure I direct you to the appropriate steps. It's on Hokie SPA, so to make that easy, Hokie SPA. And students log into Hokie SPA. And once you're in Hokie SPA, so I have another screen up on here for me, and I don't want to show you all mine because it's got all my bills too. You go into Hokie SPA. There's something called Hokie Wallet. So I will also type the answer in here. So you go to Hokie SPA, and then you click on Hokie SPA. And then Hokie Wallet is where you can see the actual, it says view and pay e-bill and add authorized payers, budget tuition plans. There's things about FERPA, which is our Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act disclosure, all that on that particular screen. So if you go Hokie SPA, click Hokie SPA, and then click Hokie Wallet, that's where you can view and pay your e-bill. And so that's where you'll also be able to see whether or not a bill has been generated for you or your student. Yeah. So we have a question here specifically saying, how can we apply to study for a master's following our first 4 years? So Virginia Tech has a graduate school in addition, of course, to Virginia Tech. And so you would apply to Virginia Tech graduate school just like you would for undergrad admissions. You have to apply for grad school. Typically, we start sending communications by like department specific things around the end of the junior year in order to prepare for that process. However, some initiatives are in place at the university, especially around the computer science master's programs that are getting information now to encourage you to think about grad school for later on. And so there is information on the Virginia Tech Graduate School website and how to do that process. It will also talk about minimum GPA requirements. There's other programs too that gets a little more complicated than maybe for a quick Q&A for today, but there are programs called accelerated master's programs. A lot of people used to call those programs like 4+1. That's not really the nomenclature we use here at Virginia Tech. It's more of an accelerated master's program where you can use so many of your senior level courses in your senior year to also count for graduate school. And there's rules and policies around that as well. And then also minimum specific requirements that you have to earn at your undergrad program in order to be admitted. There's also some requirements around certain exams, and a lot of programs have started to not require that, just like we don't require SATs and so forth at the undergrad admissions level for you now. But grad school has other kinds of exams depending on the program. And some of those requirements some of those programs still require those, like GREs, which is the graduate record exam, but some of them don't. So it really depends on the program. But you can just Google Virginia Tech Graduate School and be able to see what are the specific requirements there. And I'm sorry I hit close on your Q&A, but I'm just going to type in real quick on my own Google, Graduate School Virginia Tech, and it pops up. It has degrees and programs, how to apply, the admissions requirements, so you'll be able to find those details on there. And once you're in a degree granting department, if you're not already as a transfer student, the advisors in those programs would also be able to help you if you're looking to, for example, do a program within that major. So for example, if you're in computer science and you want to do a master's in computer science, those advisors will be able to assist you with what that looks like for those programs. Or at least make sure that you're directed to the appropriate resources. Most of our programs, at least within the College of Engineering, have you have an undergrad advisor. There's a whole subset of other administrators for graduate school. So there's like Dr. Thompson is our associate dean for undergrad education and faculty affairs. There's a person in a similar role for grad students. And there's also a similar position for some of the programs for advising. They're typically just called a few different names, like graduate coordinators or program directors for grad school. Okay. So it looks like the majority of the questions have kind of tapered off. So Dr. Thompson, I do want to thank you so much for being here today and being able to address all of these questions for you. If you need anything though, please do not hesitate to reach out to your academic advisor. Like I mentioned earlier, they are here to support you. I'm going to pop back up on the screen where you can locate that information on your Hokie SPA under your view general student information is where you can find that person's name. And so definitely don't be afraid to reach out if you're feeling a little overwhelmed or lost. We are here to support you with this transition. So thank you all so much for being here today. I'm going to stop the live view on our YouTube channel, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.